First of all, I'd like to thank Leslie for the invitation, and I'm really truly honored to be in this group. This is an extraordinarily important topic, nationwide, worldwide, and you've brought together some of the finest presenters, and I applaud you in the law school. This is what I'm talking about very briefly. This is an outline. I'm going to focus on the international commitments and domestic policies that we've been inventorying, and look to prospects for regional climate change cooperation, and then talk a little bit about the challenges. I'd like to first point out that this is work that I'm doing with colleagues in Mexico and in Canada. The work that we're presenting is part of a project that is being funded by the Canadian government, a few centers in California, and the Mexican government to bring together scholars and practitioners in the NAFTA countries to think about regional governance in the context of climate change. The work we're doing is trying to understand what are the implications for climate change of the exit at one point of the United States from top-down global approaches to climate change law, and the parallel development of a number of regional activities, including those that involve two of the countries, and in some cases, three of the countries. And the work comes out, our approach to this comes out of a recognition that much of the work on climate change, again, sometimes in parallel with what has been happening in the Framework Convention and Kyoto Protocol approach, is going on in a way that is multi-level, multi-track, and based on regional perspectives. What we're doing in this work is looking at the international commitments and domestic policies that the three NAFTA countries have been involved in, looking to see if there are shared principles, common policy objectives, common regulatory approaches and tools, and looking to see if there are existing institutions that might be the basis for regional cooperation. As part of the background, we looked at what is the situation on the ground over the last, the modern period of concern with climate change as a problem, and looked at, we see that there's a very considerable asymmetry in the contributions to the climate change problem. I won't, in the paper you'll see these figures in detail, but if you look at just a few of the points on the table, the emissions in 2006 are very, show no symmetry with the United States in terms of emissions being the very big polluter. On the other hand, if you look at some other figures that have been used, including under the Bush administration approaches, you might find some greater parity. We tried to also look at the nature of emissions by sector. The idea here was to see if the emissions by sector might help us to identify some areas where cooperation at the regional level might be more attractive to the three nations. And we see here the blue is the energy sector. One area in which there is some asymmetry is in the land use and forestry contributions. And that may raise some possibilities for cooperation with regard to technology transfer. Based on our review of what is actually going on, in the paper in its appendices summarizes this in more detail, some of the findings are are these on the screen. All of the three countries accept the notion that this is an urgent problem, even though the United States did not participate in the Kyoto process, except as a very big observer. The urgency of the problem has been accepted. There's the acceptance of the principles related to the UNFCCC and the Bali Action Plan. The three countries are all on board there. Each of the nations recognize the principle of common but differentiated responsibilities with regard to solutions to the climate change problem. And each of the countries recognize that developing country participation in mitigation is necessary if we are to make some progress. Mexico, Canada, and the United States also agree on some important objectives. There are no, in any of the countries, any short-term economy-wide absolute targets for emissions. But there is a willingness to accept longer-term targets, 2050, with major percentages of decreases, as you see on the screen. The nations share a preference for short-term intensity-based targets at the national level, to the perhaps chagrin of some environmentalists or some parts of the environmental community. There's a sense that the targets have to be economics-based and not science-based targets. There is no acceptance of the notion that we can cut back at a level that we would reach what the scientific community is telling us we need to be doing in the short run. The nation states agree on the notion that our approaches should be focused on common investments and addressing the need for innovation and technology. With regard to some of the other findings, there's regulatory activity at all levels. The United States, Canada is approaching this with the notion that, at least until the Obama administration has taken the lead, that there will not be strong federal leadership with regard to the overall activities. But sub-regional cooperation, as has been explained, elaborated early today, including by Leslie, with the WCI and the regional greenhouse gas inventory, has been extensive. There have been considerable activity in this regional cooperative way in public-private sector, including something called the Security and Prosperity Partnership and the North American Energy Working Group. What is happening, and some of the other speakers have talked around this, there is an evolving understanding that there are transnational networks occurring independent of the regulatory requirement that they exist. So people in various sectors related to electricity, related to land use activities, meet regularly and are exchanging ideas and sharing notions of how we may make progress independent of what is being required. There's a strong focus on the need to be concerned with energy conservation. The three countries also agree that, are together on having strong accounting capacities, and Mexico is catching up quite rapidly in that area.